Okay, so living things are made of primarily organic molecules, not organic like, for sale at Whole Foods. I mean carbon containing. You're made out of molecules that have carbon. That's the kind of organic we're talking about. And remember, all of the words will be here, and you can go back and rewatch this. Don't bury yourself in writing every word I'm saying at the expense of listening to what I'm talking about and thinking. If you're the kind of person who writes down stuff as I'm talking and you can do that, great. I know I can't. I can listen and understand, or I can stop and write, but I can't do both. So do the one that's going to help you more, and just know you've got like the permanent version of this that you can pull back up anytime you need to. Okay. Organic molecules are molecules that form polymers. Plastic is a polymer, styrofoam is a polymer, PVC is a polymer, every plastic baggie. A polymer is just a molecule that's made out of individual little pieces strung together in a chain of some kind. A monomer is what you call the basic simple units of the building blocks. And of course I saved it somewhere, but I always lose it. Maybe when you were kids, here's my first analogy of the year, people. Pop beads, or whatever else you called them as a kiddie. Those things. Does anybody remember playing with something like that, or at least seeing it laying around a house?
Yeah.
This is the perfect example of monomer polymer. For kids, they're just supposed to work on their manual dexterity and the ability to stick the one end of, the pokey bit into the little round end. Each one of the individual beads is a monomer. You can put them together in any color combination. Now the difference is with these things, they were never meant to make branches, but that's the difference. Those are monomers, two different monomers. You string them together and you get a polymer. The process of stringing them together is going to be called dehydration synthesis. The process of taking them back apart into the individual pieces so you can put them away again is going to be called hydrolysis. If you understand these, you understand polymers. Clearly, there's not one polymer. There's a whole ton of different ones. And as long as they fit together, you can string them together in infinite combinations, as long as you have an infinitely long one. I mean, if you've got one that's got, there's 4 different ones of these. Anybody have an idea of how many different ones of this you could make? So you've got plenty of these, and there's 4 different colors. How many different 5-piece strings could you make? Like, based on different being, like, different combinations of colors. Oh, I can't do math in my head. You will see that. The second we start doing math, I get this blank stare. So, Pretty good. 15,625. There's 4 different colored beads, and you've got 5 separate spots. The answer is 5 to the 4th. So actually I did it wrong. I did it backwards. So you've got 5 things and 4 choices for each one of those 5 things. So it was more like 6,000 and some. Right? You're going to see that when we get to proteins, full-size proteins, it's going to break your calculator. In fact, when you do this lab that we're going to be doing, there's actually a calculation that you can't do because all you get is an E on your calculator because it's some ludicrously large, like heptillion number, which it can't display even in scientific notation. So, pop beads, taking individual monomers and stringing them together in novel, different combinations, either different because you've got a different order of them, like a different blue, yellow, yellow, blue, yellow, blue, red, blue, yellow, blue, or different shape. You will find somewhere you can make just a straight string, a string with 1 branch, a string with 2 branches, a string with 3 branches, a string that just goes all fractal and branches of the branches of the branches. That is how we make something as complicated as you from 4 basic materials: carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, and nucleic acids. It's the number of different ways to combine those bits that we get the stuff complex enough to make a living thing. And the main point here is looking at this. I talk about it more in the other one. You are almost entirely protein. When we look at the solid material you're made of, I think you can actually read it on yours. 15% of the solid, well, this is actually 15% of your entire body, but in terms of the part of you that's like solid, it's more like 65% of you. If we dehydrate you down into people jerky, you're going to pretty much have salty protein with virtually no carbs and a little bit of fat, because you're almost entirely protein. So I said that the act of putting those beads together has a name. That name is called dehydration synthesis. So dehydration synthesis is the term for assembling individual pieces into these big, complex, branching strings. The term dehydration means to take out water. That's what you do when you do this chemical reaction. Here's our little pop beads. If you notice, the only things that they're drawing on here in terms of any actual elements, this one has a hydrogen sticking off on one end. This one has an OH, a hydroxyl group, sticking off the other end. Those are pretty, you should know that that's a hydrogen. And that's a hydroxyl group. That's probably about the only ones that I think you'll ever actually need to know for any useful reason. AP might ask you to know the others, but that's why? Well, every atom wants how many electrons in its very outer orbit? What makes most things happy? 8. Well, whatever whatever atom is right there, if you pluck off a hydrogen, you've got now a bond stuck to nothing. And if you pluck off this OH, you've got those two bonds that don't have anything to stick to. And so what they'll do is bond to each other. So you're taking out a hydrogen on one, a hydroxyl on another, and the places where those used to bond to the rest of these bigger monomers, it bonds to itself, and the H and the OH is a water. Right? So you are dehydrating it, you're taking water out of it, and in the act of doing that, you stick two monomers together. So Darius, how many waters did you have to take out to put that together? How many waters did I have to take out to stick these two together? How many water molecules got taken out to stick those two pieces together? One. So if you have to take out one to stick every two pieces together, how many did you have to take out to put those together?
3.
Yep. Every bond that you see in a polymer, you had to take a water out. Right. So this one, you will produce, liberate, free, make, whatever, 3 water molecules in the process of building that. Hydrolysis is just the same exact process but in reverse. If you've got something that is already a polymer, if you take a water and wedge it in between two of the monomers and push them apart, and this is stuff enzymes do, and when we get to enzymes we'll explain how they physically do this. This won't just happen on its own. But if you take a water and stick it in there, the water splits back apart, the hydrogen sticks to 1/2 of what used to be a bond between these two monomers. The OH, the hydroxyl, sticks to the other side. And so this released 3 waters as you put it together. How many waters do you need to take this thing apart? 3. It's exactly the backwards. Right? Dehydration, synthesis, and hydrolysis are the exact same thing in reverse. Hydrolysis literally means hydro is water, lyse means break. Water breaking. Breaking something using water. Right? Breaking something up using water. When you digest your food, that is hydrolysis. You take big chunks of polymers, proteins, lipids, stuff like that, and you have enzymes in your stomach that use the water in your stomach to break it up. If you ever noticed, when you puke, it comes up a lot runnier than the way it went down. That's because you have to add a lot of water to the food in your stomach, so you have water available to do hydrolysis with. You have to mix the food with water from your body so that you've got the water to break all of those things apart. When you do hydrolysis in your stomach, you need to break them back apart into their monomers. No matter how big something is, you need to break it up into its itty-bitty monomers. So if it's a 10,000 amino acid long protein, you're going to need 9,999 waters to break it up, because until you break it into its itty-bitty pieces, it's too big to get into your blood. It's too big to absorb through your stomach and intestine lining. So that's digestion, and this is, well, once you've digested your food, to put you together with the pieces of the food, that's dehydration synthesis, building skin, building muscle, not so much building bone because it's a mineral mostly, but so that's the idea. Putting pop beads together. Dehydration synthesis. You have to take water out. Right? Pulling them back apart, hydrolysis, you have to put water in between the pieces to pop them back apart. Right. I'm only going to talk about a couple things with carbs. They don't have a purpose in you other than energy. You are not made of carbs. If we dehydrated you, aside from whatever sugar was in your blood and maybe some stored in your liver, there's no carbs in you. You are a carb-free food. That's because it's fuel. That's like saying, well, how much of a car is made of gasoline? None. But how well does a car work without gasoline? It doesn't. How much have you made of carbs? None. How well do you work without them? You don't. It's called starving. For every one of these, you need to know the names of the monomers. The monomers of carbohydrates are called monosaccharides. Literally, one sugar. Monosaccharide means like single sugar, one sugar. You don't eat many of these. Most things in nature are not monosaccharides. Well, except for this. We don't typically eat a lot of fructose. Yes, if you eat fruit, most fruit, the sweet you taste is fructose, but not candy bar kind of sweet. The fructose that we put into things like soda and stuff as high fructose corn syrup is basically just raw fructose. Of these three, you will see this one forever. Glucose is almost all life would prefer to eat glucose if it can. If it can't, okay, it has other ways of getting energy and eating something else and turning it into glucose. But glucose is actually what cells are designed to run on, and the rest of the things you eat either have to be converted into glucose or converted into something else that can get put into your energy processes someplace else. When you put these monomers together, well, this is the only group that's going to have 3 different levels of size. So you had monosaccharides, which were going to be single pieces. You're going to have these disaccharides, double sugars, 2 monomers, which, by the way, these little stop signs, that's what the monomers look like. That's glucose. We're not even going to bother worrying about the isomers of it. And if you remember from chemistry, isomer just means it's a different structural arrangement of the same elements in the same numbers. So it's still glucose. It's just left-handed glucose or right-handed glucose, basically. So here's a disaccharide. 2 of those things stuck together. This is mostly what you eat in the form of sugar in your diet. This one, sucrose, is what you call sugar, table sugar, sugar bowl sugar. It is 1 glucose and 1 fructose stuck together, no Don't memorize. I don't care that you know it's a glucose and a fructose. I don't even remember them because there's no point in it. Lactose, the stuff that's in milk, the stuff that some people can't digest. Maltose, the stuff that's in grains and cereals and, well, all malt beverages like beer. When they talk about, like, brewing beer, malts, that's maltose. These are all still for the same reason. These are still only energy. Polysaccharides, and this is true for everything, like plants, animals, bacteria. Monosaccharides, only energy. Disaccharides, only energy, but twice as much energy. Polysaccharides are the only ones that have more than energy as their purpose, especially in plants. Not in you. You are still just using these for energy because you don't make many of them. Polysaccharides are going to be big. Something like 200 little pieces strung together. This is starch, the stuff you eat in rice and bread and pasta and stuff like that. It is 200 glucose strung together, which is why when you eat it, it causes your blood sugar to go up, because you're eating pasta that is like made out of 200 glucose strings, and as you digest them, do hydrolysis and chop them up, it's a lot of glucose going straight into your bloodstream. Those are, poly just means many. There's no numerical value, like there is an in-between. There's one called oligosaccharides. Oligo means some, like 5 or 6 or 7. Poly, just, it's going to be dozens to hundreds to, in the case of your DNA, 2 billion. If you take all of the DNA in one cell, it's got 2 billion individual monomers strung together to create all 23 of your chromosomes. It's really long. All right, so storage, as in energy. Starch is plant fat, basically. Animals get fat to store their energy. You never saw a chubby bush. It's apple trees don't get kind of like fat. They store it as starch. That's what potatoes are. It's a way that the plant was trying to store starch for the winter, except that we dig them up and take the potatoes out of the ground. Right? In stuff like rice or corn, the starch was supposed to be stored energy for those little seeds to get growing until they could make their own leaves and start getting sunlight. Animals do have a polysaccharide. You make glycogen. How many people here play a sport? Okay, that's the reason you're not face down after 18 minutes of practice. The energy to get through practice, that hour or 2 hours of energy, is glycogen. When you eat food, yes, if you eat too much, you will eventually store it as fat. But for about 24 to 36 hours after you overeat, you actually store the excess calories as glycogen. It's stored in your liver, and you can pretty quickly break it back down into glucose and dump it back into your bloodstream. If you actually exercise long enough that you run out of glycogen, you're going to have needed to exercise like really hard for at least like 2 hours. But sometimes you see it in like marathon runners. They're the ones who are like literally laying on the sidewalk and they can't crawl. They're that out of energy they can't even stand up anymore, and the ambulance needs to come take them away and give them an IV because they have no more fuel. Your blood sugar only lasts you about 5 minutes. After that, you need to start dipping into your reserves of this. and I'm spending too much time on this. So, that's what glycogen looks like. Don't care that you know its structure. Doesn't matter. But for plants, they use it for something that we don't. Structure. Everything that you call wood is cellulose. Paper is pure cellulose. If basically you bite into a vegetable and it goes crunch, that was cellulose. It's what forms the cell walls of every single plant cell. That's their skeleton. That's what makes them rigid. Even grass is not like limp like a noodle. It's got some stiffness to make it stand up. If you've got really, really thick cell walls, then you're a woody plant, and you make enough that even after the plant cells die, you end up with massive slabs of cellulose that you can slice. And
at this time, may we have ninth grade with the last name A and B to room 129 for pictures? Ninth graders,
I
last
didn't
name
know
A
this.
and
Okay.
B in room 129 for pictures. Thank you.
So, wood is pure cellulose. The interesting thing is, there is not a single animal on the planet that can digest it, including plant eaters. Plant eaters can't digest plants. Termites that eat wood can't digest wood. There's no animal that possesses an enzyme that can digest it. If you look,
So no animal.
nope. No animal, not digestible by animals. In our diets, we call it fiber. If you eat a high fiber diet, it means you're eating a lot of roughage, cellulose, stuff that you're going to poop right back out again. Good for you in your diet because it keeps you flushed out. I mean, if you did nothing but, like drink protein shakes and Gatorade, yeah, you wouldn't starve, but there'd be nothing left to poop. And that means all those digestive enzymes sit in your intestines, and it's kind of funky. The only way that any animal gets energy from eating plants you have bacteria mostly in your intestines. You don't really have them in your stomach. That's kind of harsh. That's battery acid. But you literally have 2 or 3 pounds of bacteria living in your intestines. They are feeding on all of that stuff you can't digest. No, you're not a cow. You don't have 36 feet of intestines and 4 stomachs. So you don't really get a whole lot out of the plants you eat, which is why corn comes out like corn goes in. If you know what I mean. Eat too much corn on the cob and you can see it when you flush. Because you can't digest it. It's straight cellulose. In fact, it's wax-covered cellulose, which makes it even worse. And in the time it has to go through us, we don't really digest it. We digest the squishy inside of a corn kernel, because that's starch, but not the outside. Animals that eat plants keep it in their intestines way longer than we do. It takes like 16 hours for food to go through you. It takes about 4 hours for food to go through your dog, because they're meat eaters. I mean, you give dog like corn, and it's going to be like a little corn pea shooter. It's just going to be like flying out of them. It's not even going to look partly digested. Cows, it takes like 2.5 days for food to go through a cow, which gives those bacteria a long time to munch on all of them, all that cellulose, and break it down. And once they break it down, then the cow can use some of the monosaccharides that are made for itself. Right? Part of that whole idea of those, does anybody here take probiotics? Anybody here hear of probiotics? Right? It's supposed to be good for you, and it is. If you see an advertisement for probiotics, just realize that means that you're eating bacteria on purpose. Probiotics are bacteria that are good for you. Yogurt is loaded with them. Yogurt's good for you. If you got the runs, eat some yogurt, because those bacteria will repopulate your intestines and kind of get your intestines back to a normal environment. It's one of the reasons why if you take antibiotics, one of the side effects is you get the runs sometimes, because you killed off a whole bunch of the bacteria that were supposed to be making things work normal down there. Total generic trivia thing. There is one group of animals on the planet that is made of carbohydrates. Crab shells, lobster shells, insect shells look like your fingernails, but they're not. Your fingernails are protein. Those things are actually made of carbohydrates. They're made of something called, no, not chitin, it's called chitin. So it's like trivia and thing, not really important, but yes, there is one pretty big group of animals that makes its shells out of a carbohydrate, so they are made of carbs, but bigger animals are not. Okay.